$300,000 up for grabs on Underdog Fantasy in week 9 of the NFL season with a $50,000 top prize on just a $5 entry fee tournament. We're going to get into the 5 keys to winning $50,000 or your share of $300,000. But first, let's take a look back at the winning lineup, the $50,000 lineup from last week, week 8 of the NFL season. It's funny when we see the winning lineup, and a lot of the times it seems pretty straightforward. This one has an elite quarterback, Jalen Hurts, the best quarterback in week 8, stacked with his highest upside, number 1 alpha wide receiver, A.J. Brown. The lineup also has probably underpriced running backs. Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, they're superstars. Christian McCaffrey was one of the top picks in fantasy all summer. Alvin Kamara has been a superstar in fantasy for many years. And unsurprisingly, the lineup has exposure to the Miami Dolphins, who were our favorite stack and just about everyone's favorite stack in week 8. Seems a little simple, but maybe we just draft the really good football players that are really cheap in drafts. Even Kyle Pitts finally had a breakthrough last week to bring home $50K for one lucky drafter. Looking at week 9, we're going to start with our top stack. The Bills are typically everybody's top stack, but with Josh Allen going first overall, we need to look at some different teams and ways to get different with our offenses in our stacks, which leads us to our sneaky stack of week 9, which is the Tampa Bay Bucks. Look, I get it. The Bucks offense has been awful this year. They haven't produced seemingly all season. A couple of decent games here and there, but that's finally priced into the market. Tom Brady's not even being picked in most drafts, despite a fine matchup and averaging more than 46 pass attempts since week 3 per game. Even as bad as they've been, the Bucks pass offense still ranks 9th in DVOA. They just can't run the ball, but that's fine for us because it's leading to a ton of pass volume, and you have 2 star wide receivers to stack with Tom Brady, both at reasonable prices in drafts, in Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. The Rams actually also are a bit of a pass funnel on defense. They're 4th in run defense DVOA, but just 19th in pass defense DVOA, setting up the Bucks to continue to throw and have some more success, but no one is interested in them. At running back, we're a little less deep than maybe the last month or so in drafts. But there's one high-end option we're prioritizing in a pristine matchup, and he's ascending in terms of usage. And that player is Aaron Jones. With the lack of firepower at the wide receiver position for the Packers, they're using their running backs. Aaron Jones has seen 28 total carries, 15 total targets, 233 total yards, and 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks in much, much more difficult matchups than the Detroit Lions. Every week we want to be targeting this Lions defense, especially with explosive players like Aaron Jones. He's our 7th overall ranked player at Spike Week. Make sure to check out those rankings in the description. But his ADP is just 11th on Underdog. The Lions are dead last in pass defense and 3rd to last in rush defense. So Aaron Jones' dual threat ability should allow him to get there in just about any way. He has 40-plus point upside, and he goes outside the top 10. He's the perfect pick for us in drafts at running back this week. At wide receiver, maybe the best value on the board is DK Metcalf. Despite suffering what looked like a serious injury, maybe even a season-ending injury, DK Metcalf came back to play in week 8 and was normal superstar target dominant DK Metcalf. He actually led the Seahawks passing game with 10 targets, even though he only played 62% of the snaps. 30% of the targets on just 62% of the snaps seems pretty good. On top of that, he dominated the team air yards with 149 air yards, good for 57% of the team total air yards. With the injury a couple weeks ago and him not converting those air yards into big fantasy points last week, the markets pushed him way down the board, even though just a couple weeks ago when he played this Cardinals defense, this lackluster Cardinals secondary, we were really excited for the Seahawks passing game. We're buying the dip on DK Metcalf, pairing him with some of these superstar running backs at the top of drafts, with him falling in late into drafts in the 30s, outside of the top 30 in ADP. At tight end, we got another Packer, Robert Tonyan. Despite playing just 48% of the total team snaps on the season, Tonyan is 2nd in targets on the Packers. He was injured last year, so as he started to get healthier, he's benefiting from the Packers' lack of wide receivers, especially without Allen Lazard. In the last 3 games, he's gotten 22 total targets with one 12-target game, and he got up to 74% of the snaps last week against the Bills. With Lazard likely out again and Tonyan seemingly taking on a much bigger role, he's still going undrafted on Underdog, maybe the worst tight end week of the season. And we know he gets the golden matchup of the Detroit Lions. We want to be targeting these guys. This is a perfect position and the perfect player to do so. Our last key to these Battle Royale drafts is finding somebody at the end of drafts that's a little off the board. lower owned play, not getting drafted in every single draft. Last week, Donta Foreman came through huge with us. Monster game with 3 touchdowns. So we're going to look to another guy in a sneaky good spot with sneaky good upside in Josh Palmer. Palmer missed the Chargers last game with a concussion, and the questionable tag is definitely pushing him too far down draft boards. We know that Mike Williams is out for a while. We don't know what's going on with Keenan Allen. He didn't practice on Monday, and he re-injured, re-aggravated, didn't play the full game. He was limited snaps in his return in the Chargers last game. Even if Keenan does play, Palmer should be set for a big role without Mike Williams in a Justin Herbert-led offense. Jalen Guyton is also out. They're starving for weapons, and the ball's got to go somewhere in a pass-heavy offense like the Chargers. We saw Palmer pick up targets at the end of last season when some of their wide receivers were missing, and now he draws a Falcons defense that's bleeding fantasy points to the wide receiver position, particularly since AJ Terrell went down a couple weeks ago. And with the questionable tag, even though he's practicing, if something does happen to Palmer and he doesn't play on Sunday, you can always swap him out, and probably swap him out for another Chargers wide receiver to pair with your Herbert stacks, or to just get exposure to this wide receiver core that's lacking for weapons anywhere. So those are our 5 keys to NFL Week 9 Battle Royale drafts. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, make sure to use promo code SPIKE, SPIKE, 100% deposit bonus using that promo code, up to $100 for first-time users. And of course, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. It would help us out. Go crush your drafts in Week 9, and we'll see you guys in Week 10. Peace.